This episode considers the Virgin Mary's influence on names of places, plus a request for comments for my book. Have you ever considered the names for various places that we talk about all the time without really taking a moment to look at the origins of the names? As you know, I'm curious when I come up with something that has an origin that can be associated to the Virgin Mary, and also saints who were inspired or visited by her during their lifetimes. Part of this podcast recalls my trip to the Caribbean a bit ago when I took note of some of the island names of places I visited. Now, recently, during some research for the new book I'm working on, I began to ponder the origin of the name of the ship that the Pilgrims came to North America on. Yes, that being the Mayflower. Well, I am aware of the possibility that indeed the flower, known as the Mayflower, is associated with, well, the month of May, and I can't help but wonder, since May is known as the month of Mary, perhaps the owners of that ship favored her when they named the ship the Mayflower. What do you think? Oh, one other thing. For those of you currently reading my book, The Very Fine Light, please, when you finish it, do go to the book's Amazon.com page and rate it. I have a link at nicosteves.com that will get you to the page on Amazon. I need several dozen additional ratings in order to raise the visibility of the book on Amazon. Now, more about those island names. I have photographs on my website too. Why not check them out? I spent time in the Caribbean islands and was struck by the beauty of the aquamarine waters, the coral reefs, the deep blue water, the luscious vegetation, and typical island feel. Following this trip, I better understand that the tragedy of slavery should never be forgotten in these islands, and the lingering memory does overshadow some of the beauty. I need to spend more time learning of the past before being able to report on it more better. But here's what did strike me that I can report on, viewed today. The shift from total focus of cash crops from yesteryear is now changed to tourism. The tourism industry of visiting tourists with hot springs, cruise ship destinations, people beachcombing, people scuba diving, the wealthy mooring their yachts, and everything that goes along to support such attractions appears to be a huge part of the contemporary economy of these islands. What also comes to my mind are the naming of the various islands in the Caribbean. Did the ancient mariners use the names of saints to thank these individual saints for helping their safe passage from their home ports as they sailed across the unknown seas? When thinking about being on the ocean with nothing but sea in every direction, to come upon an island, an artifact from volcanic activity from times undefined long ago, must have seemed miraculous to those weary sea dogs traveling during those times. And for me, what I experienced during my trip to the Caribbean, to see these islands up close, to witness their physical characteristics, the actual environs, as in St. Kitts Island and Nevins, near the same area where Columbus anchored, was remarkable. Did these voyages of discovery include high ideals through the naming of the islands of the New World? It was during Columbus's second voyage in 1493 that he came upon and anchored and named these two islands that I found especially interesting in regards to the naming he used for St. Kitts and its little sister just off its shore 2 miles, called Nevis. St. Kitts, still known in diplomatic circles by its official name, St. Christopher Island, and the next door Nevis Island, so named because of the white clouds that frequently can be seen above the island's peak. Columbus named the larger island St. Christopher, and it's easy because St. Christopher is the patron saint of travelers. But how is it that it came to be called St. Kitts? Apparently, for the English, they used the word Kit as a shortened form of the formal Christopher. Now, as for Nevis, Columbus called her originally St. Martin, because when they anchored in the 2-mile narrows between St. Kitts and the much smaller Nevis Island, just basically a one-mountain island. Why so named? Because the day they anchored at these two islands was the feast day of St. Martin of Tours. tours being a famous stopping point in Spain for those on pilgrimage on the famous Santiago de Compostela, or the Way of St. James. But the little island did not keep the name St. Martin, and it's said because of mistakes that were made by the early mariners who positioned it on the map differently. And so, as you may know, the island that's known today as St. Martin is elsewhere, although in the same region. And it's all for the better, because the name in Spanish that stuck with Nevis reflects the fact that white clouds seem to cover the volcanic mountaintop, and so these clouds, with their snow-like quality, reminded a mariner of the miraculous 4th century story of Our Lady of the Snows. That 4th century story was when the Virgin Mary appeared to a wealthy couple and asked them to have the chapel built on a hill in Rome. They went in search of the hill in the middle of August, only to find on the top of the hill it was covered with snow, hence Our Lady of the Snow. And so this discoverer, this mariner, thinking about the homeland place, chose to call the island after this miracle, since it was hot, but the beautiful balmy Caribbean weather and those puffy clouds reminded him of Nevis, Our Lady of the Snows. Other islands named for saints that I visited was San Juan, Puerto Rico, the name San Juan Bautista for St. John the Baptist. Also St. Lucia, named for St. Lucy of Syracuse, that is located on the island of Sicily. So I mentioned San Juan. San Juan was originally the name of the island. Originally, the island itself was named for St. John the Baptist, whereas the city capital was called Puerto Rico, or Rich Port. Somehow in history, the names got mixed to where today the city is named for St. John the Baptist, or San Juan, and Puerto Rico, or Rich Port, is the island's name. And so these names and the colorful discoveries, along with the contemporary recognition of the brutality of human against human, speaks to me in regards to the possibility that high ideals became overtaken by the lower aspects of greed and selfish interests with the passing of time. Ideals of human beings, people who missed the mark of the ideals they assumed they would uphold. My book, The Very Fine Light, is available on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at NikosSteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends, and consider William J. Walsh's book, Heaven's Bright Queen, Apparitions and Shrines of Heaven's Bright Queen. This is Nikos Steves. Thank you. See you next time.